afternoon. You have Dave back this week, or should I move the builder thing back up to the top?
He's back from vacation and I believe is planning to join the meeting today. So
Awesome.
here he is.
Today is our release planning and RFC day too, right? So I should add those. All right, should we get started? First thing on the agenda is new faces. I don't see anybody. So release planning and updates. And we don't have Javier this week.
We've cut a release branch for the life cycle 092. I'd like to ship that by the end of the week. So feel free to try it out.
Travis? I think we.
Yeah, thanks. We are getting a hotfix out actually right now for 0.14.2, and we have one issue with Arch Linux. Everything else looks good, so working that out right now, but hopefully it'll be a simple fix. y'all get that? Heard in my network.
I think we heard enough. Or it was okay.
Yeah, so there's a hot fix right now that we're currently working on for 0.14.2. And we're just having one issue with Arch Linux, but everything else is looking good right now.
Cool. Any other release planning updates?
When is 0.10.0 scheduled at this point?
We're basically just getting started on lifecycle 0.10 now, so I would say month ballpark.
Cool. Anything else? We will jump into RFC review. Give me 30 seconds to share my screen. First thing is add extension spec for Builder. It's in the agenda today. And Dave, you're okay chatting about that? Today on the agenda?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'll skip over it for now. RFC pre-release version and lifecycle experimental mode. Where are we with that? Joe Terrence.
I think I'm still making I moved some stuff around, but I think the only real changes here would be moving the experimental kind of implementation stuff out into alternatives and moving the experimental and the API in from talking last week.
Cool. So still working on it. Not looking for approvals quite yet. Cool. And then Mixins is part of Stackpacks. There's Blockdown Stackpacks. Stackpacks.
Yeah, I think I've addressed most or maybe all of the feedback. Certainly could be potentially more that needs to be added, but I'd like to try and drive this one to a close within the next week or so. So I'd like some advice on what we think needs to happen to make that happen. But I think one of the things would be to review Jesse's PR, because it gives you a little bit more concrete sense of what might be missing or whatever from this RFC.
Got it. Do you want to link the PR? Is the PR linked in the RFC? Should people?
Yeah, it's linked the other way. I'll double check and add a comment if it's not.
And then is it good for approvals? Would you recommend that people give thumbs up, thumbs down?
Yeah, if you're ready. Yeah, absolutely.
So, next thing is Buildpacks should be able to provide the default process for an app. I had Natalie open this one. I think is this all approved? 1, 2, 3. I think this is ready to go. Yeah. Oh no, Terrence. Sorry.
It was approved, but I think it changed since people added their approvals. So I don't know if there's can we like alert people who have approved maybe to give it one more read?
Yeah, I reviewed those changes, but maybe we should just refresh all of them and then, because just to make it obvious that they were
but
revoted.
Natalie, I believe you can.
Ah.
Yeah, but if not, someone can press those circles there.
Yeah. It
Sure.
seems like Joe, you want to re-review? I got it right here. I'm good. I actually reviewed this morning. Ben and Emily.
Yeah.
I'm good.
You're good.
Yeah, I actually reviewed.
Give
I
me
just didn't.
do a refresh on mine, and I'll have it up there.
Cool. And then Joe, you want to refresh? You got it. And then
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah.
Jesse. Trying to keep approvals on there so it doesn't take longer in the future. Refresh. Cool. All right. So it's just me and Emily are through, and then wait for approvals for the rest. Anything else on this one?
calling attention to the pack upgrade path. It should be noted there. I think that was the last kind of open question.
Got it. Is there a discussion somewhere here?
Yeah, it should be the last bullet of that comment, and then I called it out in the actual text. Right there, I asked Javier for his thoughts.
Cool. It'd be great if people wanted to take a look at that and try to get their approvals through. Going back to the list, that's draft. Layer origin metadata. As usual, I ask, anybody talk to Paul recently? Or have any idea what the status of this thing is?
I feel guilty about it. I think we should help him get this through.
Should I just ping him in the
But
thing?
I haven't gotten a chance to reread it recently.
Any action, or just leave as is and we'll get to it? I'll leave it as it is. And experimental features.
I think this just needs votes of yes, no.
Cool. Yeah, got it. And last but not least, I don't see Dan anywhere, but I think this is pretty close or something. Offline build packages. Is this looking for approvals yet? There's some open questions maybe. I think it's just folks should take a look and approve if they're ready to approve. Cool. And that concludes our RFC review. So next thing in the list is builder extension spec. I'll let Dave take this away.
So there's, I think in general, this has been, I guess, hashed out a bit. I had left, I was out for a few weeks, but there were some comments from Emily that I wanted to know what the general consensus was. Specifically, I'm not, not so in the know in terms of what we're doing now with service bindings, but she had suggested having requiring that the service binding group be set to /platform/bindings. And secondly, discussed whether we should be using specifying directories or whether we should just be using environment variables to kind of specify whatever we needed to allow us the maximum flexibility. I kind of like having things be a bit more, not quite rigid, but like a bit more defined, just because I sometimes get a bit more confused if I'm like, oh yeah, envar should be set to something, and I don't know what things actually end up looking like. But at the same time, I'm also eager to hear what other people think.
On the setting the binding. Go ahead, Emily.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. I think there's a little bit of a lag there. On the envar thing, I was wondering, we have gone out of our way to make things like appdir and things like that configurable. And I feel like if we made it configurable for a reason, because there might be platforms that want to have an opinion that the name of the appdir shouldn't be workspace, it should be the name of their platform or something. And then therefore in the builder spec, instead of saying we have to set things to the default value, saying that we have to set the environment variable to a valid value, I think gives people an option to take advantage of some of that flexibility. That's sort of my feeling on the environment variable stuff. It also gives us a chance to change default someday if we wanted to, right? On the platform binding, I'm less confident that we should set the platform binding root environment variable, but I was wondering if we should, if there are things like platform binding where we want to, or the place we're mounting in a volume is a subdirectory. Sometimes there can be weird permissions issues with the parent directories when you automatically mount something in, depending on the UMask in the image. So I think creating those variables in advance and then pre-configuring it sort of helps you get around those issues. Those are the reasons behind some of those suggestions.
I definitely feel like the builder spec shouldn't define any more things to exact values that are variable in the general spec, unless there is like really a thing that is innate to builders that always must be the same for builders, like the concrete runnable image, right? So I like injecting, or I would like, it'd be good if the builder spec didn't specify directories like, you know, layers or whatever that are technically allowed to vary.
So in that case, you know, there's a bunch of sub things within the dat/cmb directory. And then there's layers, platform, and workspace. Stephen, are you saying that that perhaps CMBs shouldn't be like the CMB? We should kind of, you know, restrict, or we should have some more opinions on. But otherwise, for layers, platform, and workspace, we can use NVARs.
I think that's my opinion. Like CNB, we've called out as CNB on purpose to be like, yes, this is, you know, inflexible. I don't know if we meant to define it as /CNB or if that even that should be configurable, right? But the structure inside shouldn't. But for the outside stuff that's injected, like if it's always going to be /layers, then why are we passing that information anywhere, right? Why don't we just make that assumption at the build pack level or something? Or /platform is a better example. If that makes sense. Like why pass /platform to the buildpack scripts if it's always must be platform? Buildpack might as well just assume /platform is the platform directory. I don't know, Emily, if I'm contradicting something you said earlier. I just your connection's cutting out for me a little bit.
Agreeing with me. I believe you.
I think I am agreeing.
It's like we said that values can be configured with environment variables. So we should allow someone when they make a builder to configure the values with an environment variable. That makes sense to me.
Sorry, you were cutting out a bit earlier. I thought I was agreeing with you. Cool.
And with service binding group, does anybody else have opinions on requiring it?
Can you provide some context? So this environment variable is like part of that upstream new service binding thing that Ben's been working on with some folks. And it's like this environment variable has to be present at runtime or something to find what services, and we're defining the build time version of that. And so during build time, should that have to be set? I kind of feel like if the upstream thing doesn't say this is only for apps at runtime, right? Then that's that is the way it's spec'd upstream, and therefore that's the way we should provide it, and the way during build time things should look for those, and that it happens to be in platform also is just an implementation detail of what we put together, if that makes sense. So it's yes, it should be set during build time.
Yeah, I would agree with. Yeah, I would agree with that. That since it is set, like the spec doesn't describe build time versus runtime. It just says to find these things in a container, you should look at this environment variable. And so I think continuing with that is the correct answer here.
But should we restrict the value of that?
Like, should you restrict it so that it's like, this must be the value of environment variable version of CNB platform dir, right? Slash, and then the word bindings. I would be okay with an additional restriction in the CNB context that that directory must be this subdirectory of this other environment variable. That seems reasonable to me to make everything fit together. It's a little weird, but I don't think it's a violation of any particular spec.
Yeah, I think whether or not we would make that restriction is totally a CNB thing, and whether or not we're sort of still trying to constrain everything so that it exists under /platform, or whether or not we're a bit more.
Ben, you cut out completely.
I wasn't sure if that was me or not.
He cut out for me too. I think we understood your point though.
The internet over here is having a bad day. It's lunchtime.
Yeah.
I guess it should say, like, it should be set to whatever the environment variable that points to platform is set at with bindings after it, right? I don't think that stops you from at runtime mounting your binding somewhere else and setting the environment variable somewhere else, but the idea that it comes with an environment variable set gives platforms the option to just mount something in without worrying about setting it.
As long as Buildpacks are looking for the environment, the official environment variable, if that makes sense.
Okay, so in that case, it seemed like the feedback was agreeing to both of Emily's suggestions, so I will take that into account and update the RFC.
Cool. Anything else you want to chat about on builder extension spec? And we're at the end of the agenda. Does anybody want to add any final items or anything like that? Or should we call it? All right, looks like that's a wrap. Thanks, everybody.